I didn't know until I was 16 that my younger brother Danny was gay, a homosexual. I mean, I kind of guessed earlier. I had a feeling that he was different. He was 15 at the time. Different because he didn't quite fit. Well, he fit in some places, but not in others. The girls liked him. But the boys, well, he was last to be chosen for the sports teams. Not because he was skinny or anything like that. He was just not a sports kid like me. Finally, he just didn't join in. No humiliation in that. We were Catholic, my family. I'm not anymore. Vietnam cured me of that. But when I was growing up, we were 110% Catholic. We did the Catholic things. First Communion, Confirmation, the enlistment into the Army of Christ and all that. The processions, serving as altar boys, the choir practice. Danny spent a lot of time alone, either in his room or in church, mostly in church. I just thought he was more devout, than I was. Like maybe he wanted to be a priest. He fit in very well with them, Father Moran and the nuns, especially Sister Delberta, and I didn't. "Mr. Michael Sullivan, wake up!" Followed by a whack on my head with a ruler, or a poke in my back with the infamous rubber-tipped pointer. "Go to the blackboard, Mr. Sullivan. Multiply 24,569 times 4,297. Then divide that by 49. That should wake you up." We had another nun. She used to use pencils. But I guess you've heard stories like that. My brother, a fag. Turns out he was in a hell of a battle, not in the army of Christ, but in a battle in his heart, his mind, his psyche, his emotions, whatever. I still don't understand it.
I knew early on that I didn't fit. My brother seemed to fit. He was doing all the things boys are expected to do. Excel in sports, always the first to be chosen for the baseball teams, basketball, football.
Don't forget your hymnals, boys. Sister Bernice has enough to worry about than to have to find another hymnal for you, Michael.
Yes, Mother.
I forgot my hymnal once. Dad had to go home and get it. Not only was Sister Bernice pissed, but Dad, phew. My brother, well, you know what Danny did. He tried to give me his hymnal since he knew all the hymns by heart. I sure didn't. It wouldn't have worked. Sister Delberta would have noticed that he didn't have his hymnal and would have guessed correctly that I forgot mine.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the news for this hour. Now it's back to your favorite old-time tunes.
Me father and me mother, God bless their souls, may they rest in peace, taught me one thing about the Holy Mother Church, and that is that she's there when you need her. Oh, I don't mean physically or religiously. What I mean is, before I go to bed at night, just as I do before I go to confession, I examine me conscience. I ask myself, have I been a good lad? Have I treated me family, me mother and me father, kindly and respectfully? Have I obeyed God's laws? Have I respected the nuns and the priest? I go to church every Sunday. I go to confession when I can. Things like that there. And I always keep me thoughts pure and me body clean.
Danny was different. I remember there was this new girl in 6th grade. He and I were both in 6th grade. I was kept back a year because I had rheumatic fever that winter. That set me back 6 months, so the principal of St. Matthias and Mom and Dad thought it was best I be held back. I could have made up those 6 months, but... Anyway, this girl was at the blackboard with a multiplication or a division problem, and all of a sudden, her slip drops to the floor. There was this moment of complete silence. Danny was the only one in the class that jumped up to help her. Everyone began to snicker. I did too, then laughed, even the girls. Sister Delberta, the little monster, slammed her pointer on her desk, and the girl ran out of the room crying. I wonder what happened to her. Never saw her again. Well, Danny may have been her hero that day, but in the eyes of everyone else, he suffered as much. Children can be cruel. Very cruel. Well, he was teased by everyone for a while after that. No sense to it, but...
When I was 12 years old, Father Moran brought in another priest to talk to us boys about becoming seminarians. I remember that day clearly. He talked about the life of a seminarian, the life of a priest, and the possibilities of joining the priesthood to help people in South America, Africa. I thought it would be a great life. I wanted to be a priest. I talked to Mom about it after school. She looked at me with a worried face.
We'll talk about it later. Seminaries cost money, you know. His father was a machinist. We barely made the tuition at St. Matthias. Both my boys were altar boys, you know. Danny was never in trouble like Michael. Always in trouble. Danny was never a problem. The nuns and priests loved him. Michael was always a bit of a problem. Always in trouble. Not bad trouble, just trouble. Michael had to serve the 6 o'clock Mass for Father Moran every weekday during one summer. That boy was so hard to get out of bed. I would have to wring out a washcloth filled with cold water on his face to get him to rise. Then he'd be mad until he came back home. He told me, but I already knew. Father Moran called me after Mass that first morning. He was not a happy man. Father Moran came up behind him while he was kneeling asleep at the altar and cuffed him on the ear. You'd think that would have cured him. His ear was still red when he got home. I didn't like that. Didn't bother his father at all.
If Father Moran caught him sleeping at the altar of Christ, he deserved the cuff on the ear. I remember once when I was his age, all the lads and lasses were walking from the altar through the church, and I spotted me mother. She was smiling at me. She was proud of her son being part of the church rituals. I broke into a smile. A nun came rushing up to me, grabbed me by the ear, and marched me outside, and gave me such a tongue lashing that I was in tears when me mother came rushing up. The nun told her that we were marching in the army of Christ, and that the children must at all times be reverent in the march.
Danny and Richie Simmons were best of pals when we got into high school. He and Richie went everywhere together. Swimming, fishing, movies. They seemed to be everywhere together. I remember because the Palace had a Western matinee every Saturday. Danny loved Westerns. I guess Richie did too. They came out of a movie holding hands one afternoon. What the hell was I to think?
No one knows how lonely it was. I didn't have many friends. It was difficult for me to make friends. Nobody seemed to want to be my friend. None of the boys, anyway. The girls liked me, though. I had quite a few girlfriends. Not so much as they were attracted to me or I to them, but we all had some of the same interests. We used to write our own plays. Musicals? The first one we wrote and performed was about priests and nuns. We even had costumes. I used to spend most of my time alone, though. Never liked football. baseball, basketball. In my freshman year in high school, I started playing tennis. At 13, I was quick on my feet. Got pretty good at tennis. But the boys called it a sissy sport. So I stopped playing tennis. I tried other sports. Football was for bigger and tougher kids. They seemed to have a different attitude. I tried baseball, playing catch with Todd, whom I thought was a good friend, until he threw the ball so hard and fast that I misjudged it and it slammed into my jaw. It nearly knocked me out. It didn't knock me over, though. He walked up to me. Didn't even ask if I was all right. "What's the matter, you queer little sissy? I didn't throw it that hard." Then he kicked me. 3 days later, his gang beat me up. Queer. Sissy. Neither of us really knew, the meaning of those two words. I was never asked to play any sports after that. Father Moran thought that Todd had really hurt me and asked my mother to take me to a doctor. He said I was fine, just a little bruise, and that I would be all right. But I wasn't. I became even more reclusive after that. I realized later that I was actually in shock. The ball crashing into my jaw really hurt, but queer. Sissy?
He used to spend a lot of time alone in his room, usually reading, but sometimes I would look up at his window from my garden work and he'd be staring out the window. He was a straight-A student, that Danny, but he was very young, well, immature. He never wanted to play with Michael and the Dirksen boys next door. Why, he spent more time with the Finnegan girls fantasizing and play acting. He would be the priest and the girls would be the nuns.
After Todd accidentally hit Danny in the jaw with a baseball, he became, well, he just wasn't the same. He spent a lot more time alone, usually in his room. The guys in our class used to laugh behind his back, point at him, whisper. He never asked them what they were laughing at or whispering about. He just never stood up for himself. Kind of wimpy, you know.
I looked for help, but there was none. I tried talking to Father Moran about how and what I was feeling, my thoughts, but I couldn't get up the nerve. I hadn't done anything wrong, so the confessional was out. Besides, he would know my voice. Then I'd suffer the embarrassment knowing that he knew. Knew what? My doubts? About myself? Father Moran led all the physical education classes for the boys. His favorite sport was boxing. Thank God I failed his qualifying class. I could run like a deer at 13, so I just didn't let Harold Nixon catch me. I just couldn't see two boys in a ring trying to hurt each other. "What's the matter, you little sissy? Stand still and fight, you little queer." There it was again. Sissy. Queer. After PE, when all the boys were showering and changing their clothes, they would be talking about cars, sports, but mostly about girls, who they would like to date or take to bed, usually in the more descriptive, vulgar words. But frankly, I'd be thinking of them. I liked looking at their bodies. All those hot and sweating bodies. All the noise. Yelling and screaming, taunting. I realized then that I looked at boys the way other boys looked at girls. Richie Simmons and I became friends our freshman year in high school. We met at our first high school dance. Every Friday night, the nuns organized a dance in the school gym. The priests were there to chaperone. Richie and I talked until curfew that night. We talked about the books we'd read and the music we liked. Neither of us cared much for the Beatles. Contemporary jazz. We were both into Miles Davis, Stan Getz, Lionel Hampton, Louis Armstrong, and Benny Goodman. And Western movies. Roy Rogers was my favorite. His was Gene Autry. Gary Cooper and Randolph Scott were the best, though.
Everybody knew there was something wrong with Richie Simmons. Different, you know. They'd say, he was kind of light in the loafers. Or they'd do this behind his back. Things like that.
In my junior year in high school, we were sitting around the dinner table. Michael asked me why I pal around with Richie Simmons. He's a little limp in the wrist, isn't he? I said, because we like each other's company. That queer little faggot. Everybody knows he's gay. Are you gay too? Silence. Dad looked up and yelled, "That kind of talk doesn't belong in this house." I looked at Michael and said, "I guess I am." Dad looked at Mom. Mom continued to eat. Then he looked at Michael. Then he looked at me. Dad yelled, "You faggot bastard!" Got up and walked away. Mom went on with her dinner, saying, "We'll talk about this later, Danny and Michael." Michael picked up his dinner and threw it at me. Mom looked at him. He rarely spoke to me after that. Only when necessary. "Get out of my way, you little fag." Eventually, it was as if I didn't exist. In order to prove to his friends that being homosexual was not contagious and that he was not homosexual, he began taking any and every girl he met to bed. Then came the drinking, which never stopped. Mother, on the other hand, never skipped a beat, at least in front of me. I could hear her and Dad talking late at night. "I will not have clean in my house. What have you done to me, woman?" I could hear her crying. He would get up and go downstairs. He'd sit in his chair in the dark all night. Dad never spoke to me again. I guess he was forced to realize, but never face it or me, that what he guessed was true. His son is homosexual. We lived in the same house until after graduation, but never spoke to each other again. I was 17 when I left home.
After Danny had his coming out at the dinner table, we were never a family again. I went around town screwing every broad that offered it to me. I had to prove to everyone that he was a homosexual, not me. It's not contagious, you know. I can get it up for a girl, not a guy. I wasn't going to be called a faggot queer. Not me. Hell, even girls I never would have considered looking at. My senior year, I must have laid 40, maybe 45 girls. "Watch out, that Michael Sullivan, he's horny." Oh, we had parties. Boy, did we have parties. George, the guy with the gas station and the beer joint outside of town, he sold us the beer. We drank everything we could get our hands on, my buddies and me. Hell, I was drunk at my high school graduation. The nuns didn't like me anyway. They sure didn't approve of that. They liked that faggot brother of mine, though. I wonder if they knew he was a homosexual.
Michael sure got the news around town. It wasn't long before everybody was pointing at me, or whispering when they saw me. He'd yell at me from across the street.
"Hey guys, that's my queer little brother over there." The queer bastard. "Gets it up for the boys. Hey Danny, guess who I laid last night? Lena.
A girl! Got her in the back seat of Dad's Merc.
He showed up drunk for our graduation. Mom and I never talked as she said we would. It was as if she couldn't bring herself to want to know the truth, let alone face it. I'm her son. Doesn't my happiness mean anything?
Michael was always trouble. He would tease his brother Danny terrible. I didn't care for the language or the tone of his voice. Their father always blamed me for the shenanigans. Boys will be boys, he would say. But Michael took to drinking. Coming home smelling of beer and whiskey. I told his father, but he just threw up his hands and walked away yelling back at me.
He's a big boy now, you know. I can't handle him anymore now. And I'll tell you again, woman, there's talk of the plant closing. I may be out of a job at my age. I have worse things to worry about than Michael having a toot now and again. It's a good thing it is that this house is paid for. A drunken sot and a faggot. That's what I get from you, woman.
I didn't tell Mom or Dad that the day of graduation I enlisted in the Marines. I was gonna go kick some gook ass and take some gook names. There was a war going on. Vietnam. You remember Vietnam, don't you? I jumped off the bus in San Diego, got the shit kicked out of me for 90 days. I loved every minute of it. 3 months of sandflies, DIs screaming in my face, guys crying like babies, crapping and pissing their pants like damn fags, puking their guts out in their mess kits 'cause they were homesick. And all I wanted was a beer. It was so damn hot down there. You'd think they'd offer a guy a beer once in a while. My first day in the Corps, I was probed, inoculated, shot, got my teeth checked by a drunk dentist. Yeah, he was drunk on his ass. I coughed, gave blood, pissed in a bottle, you name it. I got it, and I gave it. Second day, I took tests. You know, intelligence tests to find out what kind of job they had for me in the Marines. Reconnaissance. That's where I want to go. On my third day, 4 DIs, drill instructors, you know, one at a time. They called each of us new recruits into their hut. They were all standing there with baseball bats. Private Sullivan, front and center. Sir, yes, sir. Private Sullivan, you shit-eating faggot, what makes you think you can be a Marine? Sir, I can take anything, sir. I want to be a Marine, sir. Private Sullivan, do you like me? Sir, yes, sir. Do you like me, Private Sullivan? Like means love, and love means fuck, and I'll be damned if you're gonna fuck me, you goddamn faggot. Get in that fucking locker, Sullivan. Sir, yes, sir. Well, I got in that locker. They slammed the door behind me and locked it. They began pounding the locker with their baseball bats. After what seemed like half an hour later, the pounding stopped. You like me, Private Sullivan? I didn't answer. The door swung open. I fell out and scrambled to attention. I was scared shitless, but I didn't let them know it. One thing I did know, though, they never called me a faggot again.
All of a sudden, my family's gone. I looked around the empty house. There's no one here for me to care for anymore. No happy children's voices. The house is strangely quiet. Even the anticipation of someone coming through the door is gone. Danny's off to college. Oh, he calls every Sunday afternoon and writes at least once a month. He's always been such a good boy. I cried for 2 weeks after Michael got on the train for boot camp. He wanted to be a Marine. He didn't write. He didn't call. Oh, I miss my Michael. May the good Lord watch over him.
I said to his mother as we was waving goodbye, the Marines is what he needs, you know. They'll straighten that lad out. He needs a stronger hand than mine.
I didn't hear from or see Michael until Christmas of '68. There he was at the train station in his fine green uniform. He had just finished some special training. He looked different, all buffed out. He was sent home before he was to be shipped to Vietnam. The anti-war movement had not yet begun. The guys that dropped out of college but remained in the reserves or the National Guard were being called up on a regular basis. Some came back in body bags. Mom gave him a big hug and a peck on the cheek. Dad shook his hand and they smiled. We shook hands, but he didn't look at me. Discounting me as his brother was worse than his abuse before he left. I'm his brother. I can't be like him. I am homosexual. I've accepted myself. I'm happy.
There he was, the family embarrassment. The little faggot bastard. You'd think he'd gone to San Francisco. We sure didn't have any like him in the Marines. I don't think we did. Nah. 8 days later, I was flying into Saigon. I was trained as a member of a special recon team. Recon, you know, special reconnaissance unit. Regular Marines gave us a lot of room. 5 days later, I was leading my platoon across a narrow river. We were chest deep in muddy, smelly water. It was so hot and humid, we could hardly breathe. My LT, my lieutenant, whispered that the rear was dragging its ass and sent me back to pick him up. As I turned, the shell screamed over me. I didn't hear him hit until 2 of my men were lifted 20, 30 feet into the air. Arms, legs, rifles, and water and mud were flying past me. Another shell got my radio man. His hand was still gripping the microphone as it shot past me. Blood all over me. Jesus Christ. This was just my 5th day.
Mom says she got a Christmas card from him. He was in Hawaii. In her letter to me, she asked,
What does R&R mean?
I think R&R stands for Rest and Recuperation, Mom. Vietnam is a terrible place.
Nice thing about Vietnam, there was always plenty of beer and broads. The bad part was there were too many bullets, bombs, and bodies. Got wounded just before Christmas of '69. Caught a through and through in my right leg. Don't believe me, huh? Hell, I'll show you. Told ya. Isn't it beautiful? Got a Purple Heart for that. Should have got 2. See? Came in here. That's 1. Came out here. That's 2 by my count. I got the little gook bastard that did it too. 1 shot. I knew it had to be a gook up a tree. I looked up and there he was. 1 shot. Pow. You should have heard him on the way down. Splat. I didn't tell the folks I got shot.
Richie and I organized an anti-Vietnam War march on campus on July 4th, 1972. We called it a peace march. The turnout was larger than Richie expected. I knew it would be a success. But there were police everywhere.
You can call me Gunny Sergeant now. Gunnery Sergeant Michael Sullivan. This is my 3rd tour in Vietnam. I just couldn't take the chicken shit stateside. Couldn't wear my uniform. Had to wear my hair a little longer so I didn't look military. Besides, the beer and the broads are cheaper here, you know. One of the duties my LT gave me was to account for the wounded and the dead. 17 wounded this week. 11 body bags. One of those bags was filled with what remained of my LT. After a napalm raid we called in on the NV, Hamo dump hit us instead. We gathered him up and put him in a bag. That's the way he went home. Been here 9 months, 22 days. 4 months, 8 days to go.
April 2nd, 1975. Dear Mother, sorry to hear about Dad. On my way home for the funeral, Michael.
Mom and I made the arrangements. He was a simple man. He wanted a very simple service. Michael arrived the day before the funeral, after the graveside service. Mom went to bed and never woke up again.
I guess she just gave up. Sometimes I feel like giving up too. After I came back from Vietnam, I re-enlisted. Re-up, they called it. That was in 70. 4 years later, in 74, I re-upped again. 23 months later, I was given a medical discharge. But they couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with me. I didn't have any energy. I got tired so often. Couldn't keep up. Now I can only work 1 day out of 4 when I can get a job. The rest of the time, I'm either sleeping or resting. Been going to the vet's hospital. Remember the wound I got in my leg? Hit my femoral artery. 2 days of blood transfusions. The vet doctors told me yesterday that I have hepatitis C. It's the incurable one, you know. It's a dirty disease. You get it from contact with blood that has the disease in it. It kills you in stages. I'm in stage 3. That's it. That's all she wrote. Stage 3 means my liver will go soon. At first they thought it was cirrhosis from all the booze I've been drinking for 20 years. I'm not an alcoholic. All the blood transfusions I got, all the bodies I handled, all the blood from my dead buddies on me, that's how I got it. It isn't so much the disease, you know. It's the attitude, the sick comments, and the looks I get from my friends and relatives that go with it. What kind of dope were you shooting in Vietnam? I'm not a dope addict. I never did drugs. What kind of horrors were you humping over there? I had my share. Never had a whore I didn't like. It's the dirt that's thrown at me. It's like AIDS. Only a homosexual can get AIDS. Bullshit. I never slept with a guy. This isn't AIDS. This is different. I fought for my country, and this is what I get. This is my 3rd wound. Don't I at least deserve another Purple Heart? I won't recover from this one. There's no glory in that. And it takes so many years to kill me. I'm gonna die from some filthy, dirty disease like AIDS. God. I'm tired.
I buried Michael next to you, Mom. Dad, your gravesites look and feel so peaceful. It's too bad you didn't die in peace. Now that you're all in one place, gathered together, so to speak, I can finally tell you that I am happy. Now, for the first time in my life, I feel complete. But I'm just as sad. All the time, you were alive, and I wanted so much to share with you the happiness I feel and the peace I found, but you wouldn't let me. As a family, we could have celebrated our happiness, if only you could have listened and understood. All the years of heartache and misery because I couldn't be like you. You didn't want to listen then. You can't listen now. It's time to move on. No use looking behind anymore. Why stay in the past when the future is bright and sure? Although most of my life I've longed for acceptance and love, why could they only act out of fear? To fear the unknown is to live in a world without sight. Why can't I go back now to waken my heart's delight? To feel that I belong and they finally see that my life's not a choice, but just who I am. When will I begin? Will it be tonight? Letting go will give a brighter light. Somewhere deep inside there is still a child smiling at the world. Those I love so much I cannot bring back, but I can't forgive the total lack of love they showed. To awaken them now from a sleep that is theirs for all time would give me the chance to convince them that life's divine. But it's too late to waken them. It's time to move on.